All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of our Aquarium's Online Academy. My name is Talia. I'm from our Education Department, and I'm happy to spend a little bit of my morning with you today. Today, we're going to be talking about a very cool animal that lives off of our coast. We're going to be talking about whales today. Some of the things that make whales, talk a little bit about some different types of whales. We're also going to be talking a little bit about their about conservation with our whales. So what are some of the challenges that they're facing? What are some of the things that we can do to help out? So that's kind of going to be our game plan for this morning, and I'm happy for you to join me. Now, during our program today, you are welcome to ask questions. If you are watching this live at 9 o'clock in the morning, you are welcome to text those questions in. We have a number right down below, right there on your screen, 562-286-1838. You're welcome to text those questions in while we're watching live. If you see something that you're wondering a little bit more about, you're like, I want to know more about that, or I've always wanted to ask this question about whales. You're welcome to text those questions in, and we'll do our best to answer them. If you're watching this after the fact, after we have aired at 9 o'clock on Friday morning, you are still welcome to ask questions. So we just ask that you email us instead, and we'll have one of our team members respond to that email. That email is down below, as well. It is live at lbaop.org. So those are two ways to communicate with us, depending on when you're watching this program. So, since we're talking about whales today, I wanted to kind of start with some basics, and let's try to figure out what is a whale. Now, a whale is a type of mammal. This is a great, by the way, I have my friend Miss Jen in the studio today. She's going to be helping not only change all the amazing stuff behind me, she's also going to be helping field your questions to me. So I do have a friend in the studio helping me out in case you're wondering about all the magic behind me. Okay, so Miss Jen put up a great picture of a humpback whale. I think these whales are super duper cool. I love that their flippers are really, really long. They also have little bumpy bumps on their flipper. They are also really good at jumping. So they're one of our whales that I love to see it when they jump out of the water, because I think they look like ginormous ballerinas, and they like to do really spinny jumps. Anyways, I got distracted about humpbacks because they are amazing. This is what they look like when they jump out of the water. I think they go like, la, like this. That's my impression of a humpback doing a beautiful breach there. So let's try to think a little bit about what makes a whale a mammal. What are some of the things that makes a mammal a mammal? Because, my friends, are we mammals? Yeah, we're mammals too. So a lot of things that make mammals can apply to our whales and to us. So let's see. I'm going to try to think. What are some things that make a mammal? Wait a minute. Make a mammal what about this stuff? Yeah, mammals have hair or fur on their body. Now, I'm looking at this humpback, and I don't see any hair. So you're like, wait a minute, we just said that males are mammals. I don't see any hair on that whale there. I've been on some whale watches before. I have never seen a whale with a nice, long, beautiful braid. I haven't seen a whale with a mohawk either. So how do they have hair? Now, I want to tell you one of my favorite ocean secrets, and that is that when whales and dolphins are babies, they have mustaches. They have mustaches on their face, and that's why they have hair, even though you don't see it when they're grown up. So they have mustaches on their face, and so you can actually, especially for a humpback, do you see all these little bumps on the humpback's face? These little bumps, on each little bump there'd be one little teeny tiny hair. I think sometimes they have them when they're grown-ups. I need to go look that up. But anyways, a lot of times they have little mustaches on their face, and they use those little mustaches to tickle mama's belly and say, hello, excuse me, I would like something to eat. So they do have some hair when they're babies. Sometimes it's also, I think, around their blowhole a little bit too. And that's how whales have Hair. So hair is one of the things that makes mammals mammals. The other thing, some of the other things, there's 5 things that make mammals mammals. We've got one. Another thing that makes a mammal is that mammals have warm blood. If you feel your forehead, what does it feel like? Hopefully it feels kind of warm, hopefully not too hot, hopefully not too cold, kind of right in between. And that's because our body is working hard to try to stay the same temperature all the time. And we can kind of tell that a little bit if we go somewhere really hot or if we go somewhere really cold. If we go somewhere really cold, you might shiver, you might go brrr, especially if you run outside without a jacket, like I do sometimes in the morning when I'm coming to work. I'm like, oh my God, it's so cold. So that's your body saying, I am cold and I want to bring my temperature back up to where I like it to be. So you might shiver if you're in a place that's too cold. If you go somewhere hot, if you went out on a vacation to the desert, you might go, whew, oh my God, or especially this past couple of days, it's been a little hot in the afternoon. You might sweat if you get too warm. And that's your body saying, I am too warm. And I want to, by sweating, I want to release some of that heat and cool myself back down to the temperature I want to be. So warm-blooded is another thing that makes being a mammal a mammal. And the same goes for our whale friends as well. Okay, so we got 2 down. We got a couple more to go. What else makes a mammal a mammal? Actually, my friends, if you guys know some ideas, you're welcome to text those questions in, or those responses in as well. If you know some things that make mammals a mammals. We've got hair, we got warm-blooded, we got a couple more things that make mammals mammals. Okay, so I have to ask you guys a question. When you guys were babies, did you sit on an egg? Did your parents sit on an egg when you guys were babies? Did you have hatch days when you first came into the world? No, we have birthdays, right? And that celebrates the day that we are born. So whales, just like us, have live birth. No eggs. So that's another thing that makes mammals mammals. Another thing that makes a mammal that has to do when they're babies is what they eat or what they consume when they are babies. So when our friends are babies, and when we're babies too, we drink milk. This goes for our seal friends as well. So this is one of our mama seals and one of our baby seals. So when baby seals and baby whales are born, they need to drink milk. Now they don't have a bottle, and you're not like saying rock-a-bye whale baby or anything like that. But they're going to be producing milk for their young. Now, whale milk, I must say, does not look like the milk you pour on your cereal in the morning. It does not look like formula. It is very, very thick. It is, I can't remember the percentage off the top of my head. I want to say it's like 60% milk fat. It's real, real thick. It looks like cottage cheese, and it tastes like fish. And I do not know that from personal experience. I take scientists' word for it, that it tastes kind of fishy. But what this really thick milk allows the whales to do is gain a nice thick layer of blubber. So they have a really thick layer of fat around their bodies. It kind of is like wearing a big puffy jacket all the time. And that's going to help our whales also help them keep warm in the cold waters where they live. So they don't have fur like our seals do. Actually, our seals have blubber too. But they don't have like a thick fur coat like our otters do, or some other mammals that live in the world. So they have to rely on a thick layer of blubber to help them keep warm. Okay, so let's see. I think we got a lot of our characteristics that make mammals mammals. They have hair. They have warm blood. They have live birth. They do not lay eggs. They drink milk when they are babies. And the other thing has to do with how they breathe. So we have lungs to breathe, right? We breathe air, or oxygen, I should say, in the air. Our whales have to do that too. They have lungs as well, and they do that. Aha! I'm going to get out of the way so you can see that a little bit better. They do that through a hole they have on the top of their head called the blowhole. So it should hopefully, our whale friends should surface one more time. There it is. To taking a nice big breath. Actually, I just noticed in that video too, you can kind of see it opening and closing as well. That's super cool. So they do kind of have a little flap there that opens and closes the blowhole when they go back down again. Because just like us, we kind of don't like getting water up our nose. It's not a fun feeling. Same for our whale friends. Now, you might say, Miss Talia, it sure looks like this whale is spitting water out of its blowhole there. So what you're seeing, some of that is water, but it's not water that they're holding inside their body. They're not like going and spitting water out like that. They are just having, because if you might have noticed, it kind of makes a little dip there. So there is a little bit of water sitting on top of that just as they're coming to the surface, kind of like, think of it like a little cup. So when they're taking that big breath, they are spraying some of that water that's been sitting on top of their blowhole when they take that breath in and out. So whales, just like us, are going to be breathing air out of that blowhole they have on the top of their head. Kind of think of it like if I took my nose and I stuck it on top of my head. That's kind of what that is. But that's great for the whale because it makes it a lot easier to breathe. You live in the water, but you have to breathe in the air. You don't have to be like sticking your head out all the time going, and then going back down for another breath, kind of like when we are swimming. So by having that opening on the top of their head, they can just come just barely up to the surface, just like that, and take a nice big breath, and then just whoop, go back down again and keep on swimming. All right. So I think we learned a little bit more about what makes a whale a mammal. Nice. All right. So the other thing I wanted to bring up is that there are two different types of whales. We like to kind of categorize them in two really big groups, and that has to do a little bit with what their teeth look like. So some whales are what we call baleen whales, or mysticetes if you want to be really, really fancy about it. And that means that they don't have teeth in their mouth like you and me. This is a picture of a gray whale here. This is a whale that we get off of our coast a little bit more in the winter time. But if you look, and again, if you have any questions, my friends, you're welcome to text it into the number on your screen. I'm going to get okay at my backwards pointing today, 562-286-1838. You guys are welcome to text questions in if you are curious about something about whales this morning. Okay, gray whale. Does it have teeth like us in here? Do our teeth look like that? No, those look very, very, very different. I think it kind of looks like they have a mustache in their mouth, or they have kind of a comb in their mouth there. So, baleen whales have baleen in their mouth. This is what we call this structure here. And it helps them eat a very particular type of food. Because if we're looking at this, do you think they eat big things? Or do you think they eat small things? They actually eat pretty small things. So these kind of act like a filter to get little shrimp, little plankton, sometimes even little crabby friends. Our gray whale likes to eat some stuff in the mud that looks like a little bit of a crab. Looks a little bit like a crab. So they'll use this to strain the water out and keep all the yummy bits inside, and they'll with their tongue and swallow it down. So it's kind of like if you guys have made pasta before. I actually made pasta last night for dinner. Sometimes you use a special bowl with holes in it. When you're done cooking the pasta, you put that into the bowl with holes. You put it into the colander, and the water goes out. Hopefully you poured it well so the pasta doesn't go on an adventure. Water goes through the holes, but the pasta stays inside. And then you're going to go shake, shake, shake. And then you have a nice bowl of pasta to eat. So it's very similar to our baleen friends as well, using their teeth, their special teeth, to filter the water out. I'm going to head over to my document camera over here to show you a little bit closer what this baleen looks like. 'Cause it's a little, you can, actually, it's pretty good there. But let's go look a little bit closer. This I'm going to talk about later. So I'm going to take that away. But this is kind of what baleen looks like a little bit more up close. This is what krill looks like as well. This is some of the things that some other baleen whales can eat. So I'm going to focus our attention on the baleen here. So I'm going to zoom in. See if I can get this to focus a little bit better. Maybe I'll let's see if I turn the light up. Is that too? Ooh, that's bright. Okay, hold on. Reverse that. That's better. Okay, so this is what baleen looks like. It is made out of the same stuff as our fingernails and our hair. It's made out of keratin. And it hangs down in plates like this. So kind of the picture we saw before, you have a plate and 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 a plate. And they all overlap and kind of create this filter for our gray whales. So they will use all this fringy bit here. This is the filter part. So these are all overlapping together. All the little shrimp and krill and whatnot will get stuck in these hairs. And then the whale will lick it with their tongue and swallow it down. So that is how baleen whales eat. Let me show you, while we're on the topic of baleen, I will show you what some of their food looks like. This is krill. This is one thing that some baleen whales like to eat. Again, our gray whales, the baleen we were looking at before, they like to go for stuff in the mud, but our blue whales, who come in the summertime, they love to eat krill. This is my finger for scale. So these are pretty small shrimp. So they are like literally eating tons and tons and tons of this stuff to make sure they have a nice full belly. So krill is another thing that our baleen whales can eat. All right, my friends. So I mentioned that there are two types of whales. There are baleen whales, and there are what we call tooth whales. This is what an orca tooth looks like. I'm going to zoom out so you... wrong way. Zoom out so you can see it a little bit further. This is kind of, I think, where the gum line would be. Like that. So you got like the root. This is a model. And then you'd have the rest of the tooth up there. I think my light is still too bright, so let me turn that down. See if that helps. That's better. All right, so this looks different shape, but this looks a little bit similar to what our teeth look like. And that is what some other whales have in their mouth to eat. These friends are going to be eating different things depending on what type of tooth whale they are. Some of them eat fish. Some of them eat other mammals like seals and sea lions. Our orca friend, who we'll talk about a little bit later, is an example of a tooth whale as well. So tooth whales would comprise of things like whales, tooth whales would consist of also things like dolphins and porpoises as well. So dolphins are considered a type of whale. They're just a whale with teeth in their mouth instead of baleen. Nice. All right, so I think we did a good job talking a little bit about the different types of whales. Again, my friends, if you have any questions, you're welcome to text those questions in. Let's dig in a little bit more to some local whales, or some whales we do see off of our coast here in California. Some of them are passing through. Some of them kind of hang out a little bit more. So, ooh, I had a friend ask if there's any dangerous whales. I can't think of one that is particularly feisty, but whales are pretty big, so I'd probably want to give them some space. They are definitely excellent hunters. Orcas are really good about hunting schools of fish. Mammals, they're pretty smart cookies. So I don't know if there's one that is particularly more dangerous than the other, but there's definitely some whales out there that are pretty smart cookies. Orca whales are pretty smart. I've seen them on videos of them kind of working. They're really good kind of at teamwork. So sometimes they'll corral a school of fish together. I've seen them kind of bump a big iceberg to knock like seals or penguins off them. So they're pretty smart cookies. But yeah, I don't know if there's one that is particularly the most dangerous versus the other? That's a great question, though. But yeah, there's definitely some whales that are really excellent hunters, and really, really smart and really good about thinking about what is the best way to get my meal today. I'll keep talking about orcas. That's actually one of the ones that I wanted to focus on a little bit today while we have a picture of one up. So an orca is, again, an example of a toothed whale. They have those teeth we saw earlier in their mouth. There's different populations of orcas all throughout the world. They all look a little bit different. So scientists can actually take pictures of these different orca populations, and based on kind of what their body looks like in terms of their patterns, based on what this kind of little patch up here looks like, the coloration of it. Some of them look a little bit more yellowy, some of them look a little bit more white. They can actually figure out where this animal lives, kind of where it calls its home, based on the patterns on its body, which is pretty awesome. I think that's really cool that just by taking pictures, we can learn a whole lot about our different animals that live off of our coast. So lots of different populations of orcas all throughout the world. We also have populations of orcas that eat different things depending on if they are what we call a resident population of orca, meaning they kind of have one spot where this is home base, this is where I live. We also have populations of orca that we call transient populations of orcas, which means that they like to go on adventures, and they can have a big swath of area that they're like, I'm going to go over here during certain parts of the year, and then I'm going to go over here during some other parts of the year. So the orcas that we see here off of Long Beach, that we'll see on occasion every once in a while, are what we call transient orcas. So they're the ones that are kind of passing through. They're not kind of just hanging out off of Long Beach being like, hey guys, how's it going? They are kind of passing through our area during different parts of the year. If there are a resident population of orca, they love to eat fish. That's one of their favorite foods. Transients tend to be eating more things like other mammals. So they tend to be eating things like seals and sea lions. So I think that's really interesting. Depending on if you're staying put or if you're on a big adventure, you're going to be eating different things, even though you are the same type of whale. Very nice. Another cool thing that I don't think I mentioned yet about toothed whales is that they have a special way of figuring out what is around them by doing something called echolocation. So a lot of toothed whales have kind of a big bumpy part on the front of their head. We call it the melon. So don't quite think like watermelon, but it's called the melon. And it can help them figure out what's around them by using sound. So they'll emit sound from themselves out into the water. It'll find an object or come across an object, bounce off that object, and come back to them. And they can tell from the time that sorry, Jen, I see your mouth going all over the place. They can tell from the time they did that. Here's a picture of one of our dolphin friends. How far away something is. They can also use that to sort of size up that object too. Another thing I noticed here that you can see really clearly. Okay, here's their blowhole. For toothed whales, they have one hole for their blowhole. For our baleen whales, we saw some of them breathing earlier. They have two openings to their blowhole. So that's one way to tell, am I looking at a whale with teeth, or am I looking at a whale with baleen in their mouth, just by looking at the top of their head? Ooh, we have a question.
Are the whale's teeth hard, or do they have a broom-ish texture?
Ooh, we had a great question about the texture of the teeth. It depends on which one we're looking at. So the teeth, like in the orca, those are probably going to be nice and smooth, kind of like our teeth. I don't think I have ever touched a real whale tooth. I think most of the ones I've interacted with are models, but they are made out of the same stuff as our teeth, so they're probably going to feel very similar, very kind of fingernail-like. For our baleen, this stuff is very broom-like. It's very stiff. This feels like my fingernail feels. It's very smooth. So this is more broom-like or straw-like. This part is a little bit smooth, and it's going to kind of be facing. This is going to be facing the front. All the filtery bits are going to be facing back, so that The animals get stuck in here. The rest of the water passes through. Great question about the texture. So yeah, this is very kind of broom-like, straw-like. This is going to be pretty smooth. Great question. Okay, so try to think where I was. We were talking about echolocation. So that is a way that animals can use sound to figure out what is around them just by using sound, which is super duper awesome. So it helps them find if there's kind of a fish nearby, things like that. Very cool. All right, I want to talk about gray whales as well, so we can talk about some baleen whales a little bit more in detail as well. Gray whales are a whale that go on a very interesting journey. They go on a migration, so that's why we see them off of our coast during the kind of very late fall and winter months, because they are going on an amazing journey. The gray whales that we see here off of Long Beach, they come all the way from Alaska. All the way from Alaska. It gets really, really cold. I'm going to get out of the way so we can see. Ooh, there's that gray whale. There's lots of gray whales. There's 3. 1, 2, 3. Nice. They go on a really amazing journey from Alaska, where it gets a little bit too cold and chilly, and they come all the way down to Mexico to have their baby. So they travel all the way down our coast, and these are the ones that we see, all the way down to Mexico to have their babies, and then we get to see them on the way back too. So eventually they'll start coming back home to Alaska, and I'll get out of the way so you can see our awesome gray whales again. Actually, I saw another one. Did you see that? I saw another one there. Sneaky whale. All right, so they go on a really amazing journey up and down our coast in the winter months. So they're one of our lucky friends that we get to see a little bit later on in the year. Gray whales are kind of gray in color, and they are one of those baleen whales. So that's the one we saw with a really nice smile. I think was also playing with some kelp in that picture. So they are a friend with those little plates in their mouth. They are a little bit unusual for baleen whales because they are going to be going for the mud. So they will go down for the mud, grab little crabby friends, and filter it out. I also love that they are covered in barnacles. So there are a particular type of barnacle that are unique to gray whales that have decided, this is my ride. And they'll attach onto them. And they're having babies kind of when the gray whales are having babies down in Mexico, so they have nice new whales to kind of hang out on. Doesn't hurt the whale. Does get a little heavy sometimes. So sometimes you might see them knock a little bit of them off. But yeah, that's another way to tell that it's a gray whale. It is covered in barnacles. One gray whale, I think, can have up to like a ton of barnacles on their body. I realize we are almost out of time, and I still need to talk about conservation. So I'm going to go really quickly over I'm having too much fun talking about whales. Some of the conservation that is happening with whales. So some of the things that might affect whales, some of the challenges they face a couple of things. One, they face general pollution. So things that are in the water that aren't supposed to be there. They are also facing challenges a little bit with climate change as well. As our Earth is changing, as our waters are warming, that might affect where their food goes, and that might affect where the whale goes, especially ones that are on big journeys, or like our blue whales are only coming to our coast during certain parts of the year because their food comes here. They also are being affected by things like port traffic, shipping lanes as well. So how can we help? What are some of the things that we can do to help out? There are a couple things that we can do. One great way to help out any animal, anything about the planet, is to share information. Tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your neighbor, tell your friends. I learned about this really cool thing today. If we learn more about our world, about our animals, we can help protect things that are important. Now, whales are protected by the Marine Mammal Protection Act. That was something that happened in, I believe, 1972. So they do have some federal protection helping them out as well. Another thing we can do to help out, or something that we do here at the aquarium to help out sometimes, is we take lots of pictures when we go on our whale watches. So one of the things we used to do is we used to have photo ID friends on our boats taking pictures of all the whales we saw during our programs. And we could figure out, by working with another group called Cascadia Research, what different types of whales were hanging out in our areas. Where were they before? Just by matching up pictures to a catalog that they had. And by figuring out where whales are, where they like to congregate, where they live, that can help us out with a whole bunch of things to make sure we're protecting areas that need to be protected. You can see that this friend has some very particular, has like an O and an O there, has some very kind of scratchy parts on here. But yeah, by looking at their flukes, by looking at their, that's what we call the tail, by the way, patterns on their body, we can figure out which whales hang out in our areas. But again, by figuring out, hey, where do these animals like to congregate, that can help us better protect them locally too. Scientists figured out, and I'm pretty sure there was some local effort to help out with this too, figured out that, hey, where there's a bunch of whales, there's also a bunch of ships that go by as they're going in and out of our ports here off of our coast. We have the Port of LA and the Port of Long Beach really nearby. And they said, hey, if we shift these lanes a little bit here and a little bit there, we're going to help better miss the areas that the whales are hanging out at. And it worked. And they actually got the lanes shifted a little bit to help better protect the whales. So by sharing information, that is a fantastic way to make sure we can help better protect the things that we care about in the ocean. Yeah.
Miss Williams' class wants to know how long you've worked for the aquarium.
Ooh, Miss Millions' class was wondering how long I worked here at the aquarium. I have been here a while. I think I've been here like 14 years and change. I'm an old hat here at the aquarium, but yeah, I've been here quite a while. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun hanging out at the aquarium for a bit. Yeah, thank you for asking. All right, my friends, one more thing you can do to help out is to help out on the food side of things. So eating sustainably, eating locally, eating sustainable seafood, which means that we're choosing fish that are being caught responsibly, that are leaving enough fish out there so that there's more fish out in the future. That's another great way to help out our oceans as well. Oh my goodness, my friends, we are out of time. So I want to thank you very, 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 very much for hanging out with me this morning and learning a little bit more about our whales. Our teacher friends that are watching, if you wouldn't mind texting in the number of students that are watching, that can help us better get an idea of what our viewership is, how we can help better serve our communities. I sure would appreciate that. But again, thank you so much for coming. If you have any more questions, you are welcome to now email us. Our email address is down below, live@lbaop.org, if you have any further questions. So thank you for joining us this morning. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you next time on our Aquariums Online Academy. Thank you guys. Bye.